What are your thoughts on the use of alternative classroom seating and fidget toys? How would you go about implementing some of these strategies in your classroom?
Fidget toys, I want to start there. I was never a huge fan of them, but I never really had many children that needed to use fidget toys, so I don't have a huge amount of experience with it. Alternative seating, however, what do they mean by that? What does that alternative seating even mean?
Well, there's a lot of schools I know I've heard of and have teachers spoken to me about how it's like flexi seating. Do you know, like traditionally it's like desks and chairs, sat there, do your work.
Yeah.
Whereas it might be like the children choose where they sit. There could be some bean bags in that corner where they do their work.
Yeah.
There might be some high chairs there that are taller for them. Just different types of seating. You can stand up and do your work. Just like a policy, which is basically like, yeah, it's okay to sit and do what you want in terms of how comfortable you are. We still crack on with the work, etc.
I think in an ideological sense, it makes a lot of sense to do something like that. Why would we not want people feeling comfortable when they come to school? It kind of reminds me of like the whole argument around uniform, though, where I'm like, obviously it's nicer just to be able to wear your own comfy clothes, but we still have uniform policy. I don't know if it's I don't know if there's enough link between that where I'm like, I still think uniform's better though. Do I think that, yeah, it's a lovely thing to be comfy, like you are at your home, you're nice and comfy, you sit where you want, but it is school and there's 32 of you and we do need to have some sort of like control and authority in the classroom, and it needs to be, you know, the learning needs to take place, and this allows it to happen. So I don't know where the line is for me. I'm not...
Yeah, but why does it have to be that just because you have a different seating thing, the learning can't happen? Are you just saying it's easier or what?
I don't know. I just think maybe the line between, because we know this is definitely a thing, right? Kids behave differently at home to what they do at school. It is just a thing. The amount of parents even as I've had where parents say, oh, they're really good in school. So they're not at home.
Yeah.
So yeah, because it's their comfortable place. The more we make school like the comfortable place, maybe there's an argument for the more they...
Oh, this is controversial.
I know it's controversial. I'm just trying to think. I'm trying to play devil's advocate because I know what the answer...
No, don't play devil's advocate. Tell me what you think.
Yeah, this is me exploring my brain right now. But I think there's probably a line somewhere is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. Maybe it's a little bit more lenient than you need to have rows of desks and everyone's sat there and you sit there all year and you can never move. And if you hate your partner, get over it.
Yeah, but no, that's not what people are saying. It's just think about the way that it's implemented now is not flexible seating. No. It's still, obviously, teachers are going to move stuff and move people if they need to be moved and stuff. It's not draconian. It's the way it is now or more flexible. Like, do you just think that move is just genuinely a bad idea?
Not generally a bad idea. I think there's just going too far is what I'm trying to say. I think there's probably a line where you can go a bit more flexible. I think if all the kids are on beanbags and they can sit where they want every day, honestly, it would actually just be horrendous.
Yeah.
Realistically, there's a reason I have a seating plan and I've always stuck to that in my career. It's because some children, if you let them sit where they want, they will sit with their mates and do absolutely nothing but mess around. Yeah. Like that is just true.
Yeah.
And that will obviously happen the more flexible you get. So there's got to be somewhere where you go, okay, it's nice that you feel comfortable and sit where you want, but you're actually not learning anything now. So
do you think that in the same way, we obviously don't do the draconian sit in rows, you can't move all year, and that's well, obviously we still have that, but there's a bit of nuance there. We move some people, we tell them where to sit, we let some people sit where they want. Can flexible seating not have that same movement where you're saying, no, it will just be outrageous, it's just people sit where they want, that'll obviously be bad. Like, okay, cool, have flexible seating then, but the odd child is just saying, well, you need to sit over here or away from this person. Like, are there accommodations you can put in place in the same way we do now to make flexible seating work and get an overall better outcome?
I think it potentially isolates kids more. I think when you've got a straight seating plan and it's just no one has a choice of where they sit, everyone sits here. Even the kids that wouldn't have been silly anyway are still sat where you tell them to sit them, and the kids that maybe would have been silly are still sat where you tell them to sit them. There's no one sat there thinking, oh, the teacher's just picking on me.
Yeah.
They're just making me sit there. Whereas when you open it up more, there is more of a chance that you just completely isolate kids, where it's like, you're the naughty kid and I'm making it extremely aware to you at every point, because all of these lovely things I give to the class, because there's complete freedom, you can't have any of them now, and we all know that. I do think it opens up that.
Yeah,
it's more complex probably. I'm just realizing as I talk about it, there's probably a lot of things to consider.
Of course, I think there are a lot of examples of it really working in some schools and some where it doesn't work. And I can imagine teachers almost pulling their hair out going, oh my gosh, the last thing I need halfway through this year is for you to tell me a child can sit in a spinny chair right now. I just don't need that right now, please. Just don't add that to my plate. Let's just be realistic for a second. I think there are ways to accommodate children with needs very different to just going down this road of potentially just mayhem in a seating plan.
Yeah.
I want to go back to the fidget stuff for a second, because I think most teachers agree that there are some cases where some form of fidget toy can help some children to concentrate more and therefore get more out of them and make learning a better experience for the children. But I've got to be really honest, having done just about 10 years, not quite 10 years, as you like to remind me, in the classroom, it felt like more often than not, it added a distraction. more often than not, them having a bit of blue tack to play with in their fingers, or a little spinny thing, or a little clicky thing in their hand. Not saying all the time it shouldn't. I'm not saying it shouldn't exist.
Yeah.
But it felt like quite often it became something for them to focus on more, and they got less out of my lesson as a result.
Definitely. Yeah. Again, it's one of those things where I feel like, oh, should I say that? But realistically,
I wonder at what point in this podcast you'll just say what you think without going,
yeah.
"Oh, I'm sorry, guys.
Gotta be super careful. I didn't mean to offend you.
I'm so sorry. Just tell me what you think.
Yeah.
Tell me what you think.
Here's what I think. 95% of the time, that system of fidget toys or having something is completely abused by families who that kid absolutely does not need it.
Well, this was the issue I had a few times over my career, which was when someone maybe got something they genuinely needed and was quite helpful for them. Then 6 other children saw that and said, "Well, why have I got to put it away? That person's playing with blue tack in their hands." And I'm like, "What do you say to that kid?" "Oh, yes, sorry, they've got a educational health and care plan and the professional has said they've got to do that to concentrate." Of course I'm not going to say that to a child.
Yeah.
But a child doesn't understand that child's doing something I'm not. Sure, we have to teach children that people get different things. I get that.
Yeah.
There's that idea of I need to support children in different ways, and we're always kind of dodging those minds in the classroom when we give a child a sheet with support and the child next to them a sheet without support, and they obviously know they're different.
Why have they got the easier one? It's
exactly,
and
it's
cringe,
like,
isn't it?
You don't want to have those conversations, but you're like, well, I know why, but I don't want to say because that child can't possibly do that unless I give them some coded questions.
Yeah, because it's embarrassing
easier
for them.
Exactly, I don't
say,
embarrass
this
them.
kid can't do it in front of everyone. Like,
right. So what ends up with the fidget toys, I find a lot of the time, is that it's easier to then say, yeah, okay, sure. Okay, your parents moaned that someone else in the class has got it. They've said it'll help you. Fine, you can have the blue tack as well. And it's like, oh my God, all that happens now is I'm talking at the front about parallelograms and they're there stringing a blue tack in front of them trying to see how far they can get it before it snaps.
Even more distracted than they ever were before.
Exactly, yeah. So it becomes frustrating and I think it's even more frustrating for me because I absolutely can see how it would be helpful for some children, but it's just not helpful for everyone.
I find that there's been loads of situations in the past where, and you have to be respectful in this situation, there's not much you can do, but where a parent will say, my child behaves in X way at home, and I've noticed this, therefore at school they need this thing. And like I established already, children behave so differently. A lot of children behave so differently at home than they do to school. So when they see home behaviors, they're like, oh yeah, like he's really fidgety. He can't sit at the dinner table without moving his legs. So it must be a problem in school. And I'm thinking, this kid couldn't be more like polite in class and better behaved and more on focused, and they come in with something like a fidget toy or I've seen like chair bands you can get, like an elastic band that goes across the chair legs. And I remember being given one of those once, and they said, oh yeah, can you use this with my child? And I remember obviously being polite and I understood their reasoning, but in my head I was thinking, your child just doesn't need this because they don't behave like what you're describing. I believe you that they behave like this at home, but they do not do that at school, and all it will do is make other kids be like, why has he got that? Why has he got that on his chair?
Exactly.
Well, because and again, I'm not saying.
What do you say?
Well, because hang on, kids, let's stop the lesson. Well, what happened was the parents, you just start doing all this explanation.
Yeah.
I just find it awkward, and I never really know what the right thing. Do you stand your ground as a professional and say, well, actually, I appreciate this is happening at home, but this isn't happening at school, so I'm not going to use it?
No, yeah.
Or do you say, well,
tricky.
you're the parent, so I kind of got to do what you say?
I think it's just a mixture of both, and that's where really good leaders that we've worked with in the past are very good at that kind of thing. Where I think, when you've got that experience and that know-how and you've seen it all before, you learn what to say and you can say, okay, thank you. I appreciate that. That's something that we'll keep an eye on and we'll look at, and then come and talk to the teacher about it. And maybe, I've had lots of conversations with leaders in the past where they've said, what's this child like in class? Are they, do they pay attention? Do they lose focus easily? I filled out many forms for people who've had, diagnosis, etc. And all you can do is just tell the truth. And if in the class they don't need it, that information goes back to the leader, they talk to the parent, and you come to a conclusion. And I just think, if constantly feeling undermined as a professional when you say, I know for a fact that this is having a detrimental effect, maybe try it for a week. And I'll tell you, well, they produce less work.
Yeah, true.
So, we've tried it for a week now. They literally produce less work. I had to remind them multiple times to pay attention, which I didn't have to do before. It's created more problems than it's solved.
Yeah.
That should be the end of the conversation then.
And there's even a circumstance where it's like, it kind of did solve the isolated problem.
Sure.
They shout out all the time in class, okay, we'll give them a fidget toy. Oh, look, they've shouted out less. They've done absolutely nothing in their book, though. Yes. They've done no work now because they were so distracted by this thing. It's like, what's better? Oh, I'll take the shouting out, but they do some work? Like, I don't know.
Right. And I think it's just a constant rolling kind of, reflect on what's happened.
Case by case.
And I think that's what it's got to be.
Yeah,
and then so when someone says, what do you think about fidget toys? I'm like, honestly, that's like saying, what do you think about handwriting? I'm like, Some children struggle with it. Some children don't. Handwriting pen grips on their pencils. I'm not going to give it to everyone. But
I let some kids write in Wingdings. Wingdings, you know the font on Microsoft Word.
Isn't it called something different?
Is it Wingdings?
I don't know.
No, it's that one.
It's the one that's just symbols, basically.
That kid doesn't need handwriting.
Someone's writing hieroglyphics. They're all good.
They were really inspired by our Egyptian topic 2 years ago.